Hey everybody, it's Mr. Raise the Screen Roamer here, bringing you Social Studies, Module 4, Lesson 5, the big event, the Declaration of Independence. So you can see that our character right here has gone on a little walk, and she went down and saw some footprints in Hollywood Boulevard, and you can see Darth Vader signed his, okay, and C-3PO, and her cousin said, it's almost as big as John Hancock's signature. You can see it right here, John Hancock's signature on the Declaration of Independence. Okay, look at this right here. Bam! He wrote his big and bold. And then everybody went and signed this document, but he signed it really big, and it was kind of like, hey, King, in your face. Okay, I object. I declare independence. Okay, so what we want to look at within this lesson right here is the political party participation that happens today, okay, because there's a lot of similarities between back then and today. Okay, describe the forms of political participation in the colonial period. Okay, so we're going to be looking at our time period and their time period and how they're the same, how they're a little bit different too. Okay, and we're going to look at something right here called grievances. Okay, you might have a grievance like, hey, I want more screen time, or I want to do this, and you're saying this to your parents. You're pointing out problems that you foresee, that apply to you, okay? But here in the Declaration of Independence lists the grievances back to the King of England saying, hey, these are the wrongs that you have done to our colonies, okay? So that's what grievances means. And then we want to compare political participation of the period, colonial period, and today, just like I said up here. And then there's some terms, okay, vocabulary, things like grievances that we just need to learn along the way. All right, let's go ahead and take a look right here. And now you can see right here, bam, the tension continued. Okay, so the American colonists and the British troops, they've been having these battles. The king rejected the peace, what was it called? The Olive Branch, okay, peace accords. He rejected them, and now they're talking about independence from Britain. Okay, so now delegates knew they're talking about independence. It was considered treason. Okay, what is treason? A crime of overthrowing one's government or disloyalty to it. Many times that would come along with the penalty of death. Okay, so they knew they were really taking a big step right here. Okay, so now you've got in June of 1776, there's only 5 members of this committee that started working on this Declaration of Independence. And to declare just means to announce. Okay, so they're writing a document, and this young man right here, Thomas Jefferson, he's the youngest man on this committee of 5. And who else was there? Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Robert Livingston, Roger Sherwin, and then the document was mainly written, he was the principal writer, was Thomas Jefferson. Now you'll notice you've got 2 presidents in there. Okay, Thomas Jefferson, I think John Adams was 2nd, Jefferson was 3rd. Okay, so it's Washington, Adams, Jefferson. Okay, and now you also have, they're working on this declaration to announce, and they came up with various drafts of the document. Okay, so just like in your writing, they came up with rough drafts, they had to revise them, and all of that, and then finally they agreed upon a final document. Okay, and now they had to present that to the Continental Congress. They did that on July 2nd, 1776. So we're getting really close to the day declaring independence, and now they have to get it approved, and they get it approved on July 4th, 1776. Okay, so that's when our Declaration of Independence was approved. They made some copies to send out throughout the states, and also 1 copy was sent to the King of England, to Britain. All right, Great Britain. And then in August 2nd, 1776, the Declaration was signed, okay, calling it the founding document of the United States. All right, so you'll notice that it's kind of different. We celebrate July 4th because that's when it was approved, and then everything was signed on August 2nd, a short time after. Now this is kind of a funny fact, is George Washington wasn't even present on July 4th, 1776. He was with his troops. Okay. So right here we've got some neat things, and you can see since Thomas Jefferson was the primary writer of the Declaration of Independence, here's some more information about him, and it goes through a couple slides, and then we also get into another gentleman right here, John Hancock, his famous signature. So read a little bit more about them, and then there is a little activity you can do right here and figure out compare and contrast. So what do they have that is the same and what is different between each of the gentlemen right there. All right, so I'm going to leave that one to you. Okay, so one of the targets that we wanted, or objectives that we wanted to talk about, was grievances. Okay, so they're defining grievances as complaints or objections, mistreatment. Okay, so within the document, there's a whole bunch of different grievances, and one of them right here, as he explains that the natural rights of everyone, get this, all men are created equal, okay, and have rights that no one can take away, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, you hear that a lot. It's because it comes from the Declaration of Independence. Okay, in the middle right here, they have another section. Okay, so this is the section that lists the unfair things that King George III has done to the colonies, and it explains why the colonies want to break away from Britain. Okay, and then at the bottom here, you can see all of the signatures. And Jefferson ended the Declaration of Independence, stating that the 13 colonies are free from British rule, independent, and it renamed the colonies the United States of America. Okay, that's where we come from, right there. Right down here below, get this, guys, 27 different objections or grievances. Okay, so you can take a look at all of these. Okay, quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. Okay, quartering means, hey, if they wanted to use your extra bedroom or use your house and go ahead and put their troops in there, they could do that. Okay, cutting off trade with other parts of the world. They say you can't trade them. Giving taxes without their consent. Okay, so that would be the Boston Tea Party and the Sugar Act and all of those things. Okay, so they've got all these different grievances. Take a look through that list right there. And now, what are some ways that they were involved? What are some ways that we're involved still today? Maybe you're not yet, okay? When you get to be 18, you can have the right to vote right here. Okay, protest. Okay, we've seen protests this last summer. Okay, there's been protests throughout the history of the United States, even prior to that, because the colonies protested as well. Okay, and a petition. Okay, a petition is where you come up with an idea and then you get people to sign saying that they agree with this, and then this is presented to someone in government, and they're saying, hey, you want to make a change, and all of these people support that. Okay, you can even run for public office. Okay, there are stipulations to that. There are requirements, certain age, certain things like even the President of the United States, you have to be born in the United States. Okay, and then write letters to the officials. Okay, I've done that. Email is very easy right now, and I've written to different city officials back in Colorado about changes that I thought needed to be made. Okay, and you can also participate in town hall meetings. Okay, so maybe a politician or a representative is up there, and then you can ask questions, okay, and bring things up that you're concerned about. Okay, so right here you can see some things. They go over what does it look like in colonial period. Okay, so back then it was mainly white male colonists could vote for representatives. So the women's vote didn't come on until later. Okay, much later. Suffrage it's called, and then it was made an amendment to the to our Constitution. Okay, you can protest. Right here you can see protests. Okay, the ones we saw this summer, I'm not going to go into them too much. Some of them were good, some of them were bad. You make up your own mind on that. Okay, petition. Once again, it's when the battle started, American colonists and British troops, the Continental Congress petitioned, so you can ask for the king to stop the violence. That's one other meaning of petition. Okay, it's asking for something. Okay, you can run for office. All of those things that we do today, okay, they did back then, okay? But now, instead of running for like your local city, state, okay, region, or the federal government, they'd be running for the colony's legislature. Okay, legislature would be the government, okay, the ruling body. Okay, writing letters to the officials. Okay, some colonist leaders wrote letters to the British government to protest the taxes and trade limits. Okay, I wrote about something that they were building in my neighborhood. The city was going to build. So very different, but we have the right to do that. Okay, and participation in hall meetings. So right here, they participated in the local level, which is a good way to do it. So they gathered at town hall meetings to talk about local issues. Okay, and then some of them became the committees of correspondence when they had to communicate back and forth. They would have these town hall meetings, figure out what everybody agreed upon, and then they could communicate with other places so that the Continental Congress could get that information. Okay, because they didn't have telephones and computers and all this high-tech stuff that we have today. Okay, let's take a look here. And what about today? Just like I talked about, hey, you guys, I want you to go through this, look back and forth. You know, they could vote for members of the Continental Legislature. Their voting rights were limited, okay? Here we vote at local, state, and federal levels, okay? The voting rights have been expanded for all American citizens, so women, okay? Back then, slaves couldn't vote, okay? So that's very different today because we don't have slaves, okay? So, protest, laws, taxes, imports, boycotts. So they could protest those things. Now we more protest on our rights, our laws, and how the government is run, which could be the laws or the taxes, okay? Petition was a letter to the king to end the violence. Now we can gather signatures to send to the representatives, just like I talked about. Okay, running for office would be the Continental Legislature. Now you run local, like your city government, okay, your state or your federal government. You can write, they wrote to British government. We write to the representatives in these three different levels. Okay, they had town hall meetings. Okay, and we do the same thing today. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at slide 7. And it's just going over that in the mid-1700s. Okay, the relationship between Britain became very tense. Okay, so now they wrote the Declaration of Independence. They listed all these grievances or these issues, these problems that they had. And they said, King George III, you've done us wrong. Okay, we are declaring independence. We are no longer colonies. Now we are the United States of America. Thomas Jefferson, okay, and 4 other gentlemen wrote that document, but Thomas Jefferson seems like he was the primary writer for it. So you should be able to describe the forms of political participation today that we just talked about. Okay, the forms of political participation in the colonial government. You should be able to talk about some of the grievances listed in the Declaration of Independence. Okay, how is their political process the same as it is today? How is it a little bit different? Okay, and then we talked about some terms such as petition, grievances, vote, that related to the Revolutionary period and to today. Okay, your assignment today is on slide 8. Okay, and it is the quiz right here. All right. So, everybody, I hope you learned something about the Declaration of Independence and what it contains and who wrote it. And until next time, take care. God bless America. See you.